Welcome back to the Beyond the Bucket Show. I'm happy to have one of the best in the industry, Robert Braunstein of 49ers Cal High Sports Report. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
I am excited to interview you because you are in this sports media broadcasting industry and you have a long history of covering prep sports here in the Bay Area. But tell me a quick 3-minute backstory about you and just kind of origin story of who you are and kind of how you got to where you're at right now.
I can't do it in 3 minutes, but I'll try.
Yeah.
I started out, I'm a San Jose State grad, went to University of Missouri in Columbia for my master's degree, great journalism school there, and then started out in Laredo, Texas, doing high school sports there, but as the sports director at KGNS TV in Laredo. So high school sports big time in Missouri, high school sports is big time in Texas.
Sure.
So I covered a lot of high school sports there. In fact, did my master's thesis on high school sports coverage in smaller markets, and then moved to San Jose in 1983. And started at KICU TV, and after 7 years of doing news and sports reporting, finally got named sports director there, and then right away started a show called High School Sports Focus in 1992, the first ever high school sports television show in a major market in the country. So that was interesting. We got it on the air kind of a strange way, but we were a bunch of young people at the beginning of our careers, and we're just kind of putting on a show and put it all together. Went live at 11 o'clock every Friday night for an hour, which was absolutely nuts. Initially people said high school sports show in the San Francisco market wouldn't work, that no teenagers were watching TV at 11 o'clock on Friday nights. Right. But within a month, it was the highest rated show on the station. And within 3 years, it was profitable. And my shows have been profitable ever since. And this coming year will be my 29th year of doing a high school sports show on television in the San Francisco Bay Area market.
Unbelievable. You did a great job.
Did I do that in under 3 minutes?
Yeah, you did. I think your background is well suited for a 3-minute Cliff Notes version of your story. And so I want to dive into kind of that path and that journey. Like you said, there's so many people that start their career and they don't really know, how things are going to go. They just know that they're passionate about something. At what point did you know you wanted to go in this direction and, kind of step away from, the network news and sports anchoring and kind of do this other project that everybody said you couldn't do?
Well, to start it off, my dad always told me, the old line, find a job that you enjoy and you'll love it. You'll be successful. Don't worry about the money. The money will come. But if you enjoy your job, you'll be willing to put in the work for your passion, and it'll work out. So when I was going to my first step out of high school was Foothill Junior College. They had a television production program there, just fell in love with TV production. So I thought, well, if I can do TV production and I can do sports, that would be great. Naive as I was at the time, not knowing how tough and competitive that it is. Sure. But then went to San Jose State. Once I graduated from San Jose State, I realized that I was not good enough to get a job anywhere. So Missouri got me to the point where I had a couple of job offers and got going there, but I still was on the sportscaster, sports anchor kind of path.
Yep.
But once we started the high school show at KGNS, Channel 36, a year later, they dumped the newscast. We were in a recession, so they expanded the high school show, but I would have been out of work if I was still just doing a sportscaster, because they laid everybody off. Sure. and dumped the newscast, but kept the high school show. So I got saved by that. And so then that was my path. But I realized very quickly that it was so much fun covering high school sports, and the kids are so appreciative that every time we go out to a game, they're like, oh, Sports Focus is here. We're going to be on TV. This is great. And so, in covering major league sports, when I was doing that, I didn't always get that same reaction where, oh, this is great. A journalist is here asking me questions as a professional athlete, but the high school kids just loved it. And it was super positive. And so not only for the kids, but for me, it was really positive because, then wherever I went, it was, Robert's here and he's going to put us on TV and this is awesome. So that makes it just incredibly enjoyable.
No, you're completely right. We used to. I grew up here in this area. Went to Del Mar High School. You've covered a lot of our basketball and football games, and I still have all those tapes that when we were on the show, when we got interviewed at Papa John's and stuff like that. I still have those, and I'm going to show those to my kids. I got them on VHS, so I got to figure a way to get those digital. But you were right. Kids really wanted to come and watch the show. Their game started at 7 and you guys were on at 11. So I don't know how that turnaround even took place. Like you said, you guys were madmen trying to put that all together in one night and filming the games and then getting them cut. And tell me about that process, because I can't imagine. I mean, we had a tough enough time finishing our game wherever it was and then going to try to watch it in time. So what was it like from behind the scenes for you guys?
It was absolutely insane. We didn't know what we didn't know when we started that. We said, oh yeah, we're going to do it. And, it was never a perfect show. We always had mistakes, but nobody really cared because there had never been anything like that before. Right. So I would go out and shoot games too. So we would go out and shoot 10 football games on a Friday night or Friday afternoon, Friday night, that kind of thing. And we'd have everything ready to go. But remember, back then we're shooting on videotape. Yeah. It was not digital. There's no SD cards back then. And so we'd shoot the games, we'd come back, we'd have a log sheet, log it all out. We'd go right to the plays that we wanted to use, boom, 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 edit those tape to tape on, big beta editing machines, take the final tape, run it into the control room. They'd put it onto a carousel and they would run it on the show. And at that time I was anchoring the show by myself. So I would go shoot a game, come back, hand off my stuff. Somebody else would edit it. I would be seeing these scripts for the first time live on the show. And if there was a mistake in the script, there was a mistake in the script. So I did a lot of what I call dancing on the air, where if there was a mistake or the plays didn't work out right or whatever, or the tapes got mixed up. I mean, everything that could go wrong at some point in those first 10 years, it did go wrong. And it was funny because Ed Buller, who was the legendary longtime coach at Oak Grove, every time that he would bring a team on the show, there would be some sort of huge disaster. I would call it like a nuclear meltdown kind of disaster where we go to black for 2 or 3 minutes or something like that. So Ed was the jinx of the show. Whenever he was on, something went wrong big time.
Yeah, they were on quite a bit because they had quite the run in the 90s and 2000s, and even to this day they're still a prominent football program. What made Sports Focus so cool? Because your branding, just the exposure that you were giving to athletes, everybody wanted it. And you guys came up with the slogan called, you saw me on Sports Focus. And everybody wanted to get those shirts every time. It was like a hot commodity to get one of those. And if you were like, we would wear them at open gyms or something like that. And if you had one of those, they'd think you were the coolest. So tell me about a little bit of your marketing and how you got it to be so cool for the young demographic, while also, focusing on the parents and some of the stories that you guys do.
So what it came down to was really one simple written down goal of the show, which was we show teenagers achieving positive goals. And, you notice sports is not in there. Sports show is not in there. It's just teenagers achieving positive goals. Sure. And a couple of things that we learned over the year was, number one, there's not many things that are cool for teenagers, but to be seen on TV by other teenagers is pretty cool. So you're being seen doing something great by your peer group. And the second thing is, really all teenagers want is a little positive attention. And so if you're giving them positive attention, they're going to thrive from that because it's a feel-good thing. Teenagers don't get a lot of positive attention. They get ripped on by the media, by the news media, by their parents sometimes, by their coaches sometimes. Yeah. But if you're on the show in a very positive way, then that's a great thing. And so we had a policy of never showing anything controversial, never showing anything negative. If a player did something that was negative or a mistake or something like that, we would never name that player. We'd only name somebody if they did something positive. So a kid knew that if he or she was going to be on the show, that it was going to be in a positive way. And the other thing that we tried to do early on was include girls in the show, which no other high school shows had. It's mostly just football based or maybe basketball based. But we included the girls, so that made it then a family show where moms and dads and sisters and brothers could sit down and watch together in a real positive way. So that was a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I love the fact that you included girls. I think that I'm a girls basketball coach, obviously, and the boys get so much attention, but these girls are super athletes as well. They're doing great things in the community, and I just appreciate the fact that you guys made that a priority early on, and that is very evident. Also, the positivity. I mean, these kids are doing some amazing things, and to your point, you want to highlight those. You don't want to highlight some of the negative things, and there's so many negative things out there, especially now. I mean, this social media area that we're in, and that's going to segue to our next question. It's just it can be so debilitating to young people to see all this negativity come their way, but a show like yours to highlight them in a positive light, the good things that they're doing. There's so much good in this world. I would much rather be positive rather than focus on some of those negatives.
And what you see just organically, this comes across in the show, is that when we're doing stories, we're doing stories that hit on some topics like social justice, like social unfairness, like LGBT rights, that kind of thing. We're doing stories on the athletes. So this athlete, we're doing a story on, say, a young man who's overcoming adversity because he doesn't have a dad. He's living in a poor area. There's gun violence victims in his family.
Sure.
So we're talking about what he's doing, why he's a great player, how he's overcoming that. But in doing that, we're showing that, yeah, this is a problem out there. This is what these kids have to go through that a lot of kids don't have to go through. And how fair is that?
Sure.
We did a story on a young lady who's a gay basketball player at Valley Christian High School.
Yeah.
And the story was not about, anything negative. The story was about how she is succeeding with her sister on the same team and becoming great basketball players and great people at a private Christian school. And she happens to be gay as well. We got, and we worked with the school on that. And sorry, my phone is ringing. I will hang up on him.
It's okay.
We dealt with the school with that. They were good with it. They were prepared for it. And the reaction was great. And we had huge views on YouTube after it ran. All of it was positive. And you go on, and that's just little things that happen, as I said, organically that allow you to get into some of those issues without being preachy or condescending.
Right. No, and that was, you guys did it. It was well done, this story. And, obviously I was involved in it and seeing the dynamics from the school's perspective, from the athlete's perspective, and then the storytelling. And, once you guys showed it, to the powers that be, nobody had any reason to say, no, we can't show this, and you guys didn't lie or embellish. It was just the truth of what it was. And she's a great person. Her family's terrific, and she has a terrific bond with her sister. And those are all three positive things. And I'm glad you guys did it because, she's been reached out to by several people thanking her for, actually telling that story when so many people are silent about it, and they're not able to tell their truth. It just makes it very difficult to go through your everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about you just mentioned it, social injustice and equality. You have been a cheerleader, from a long time ago about these sort of issues. What direction do you think we're going for in the high school arena and in our own community? Are we on the right path by having some of these conversations that may have not been had for a number of years? And just what's your perspective on how we can continue to grow and hopefully become equal?
Yeah, that's it's a 30-year journey for me. So next year will be my 29th year doing this. And when I first started out and covering some of the less advantaged schools in Richmond and Oakland and East San Jose and those areas where it's tougher, you didn't see the concern for those issues.
Sure.
And I was just talking with Alexis Gray Lawson. She's the new head basketball coach at St. Joe's, and probably the best girls basketball player ever to come out of Oakland. And we were talking about this and talking about people like DeMarshe Johnson and Antonio Kellogg, who were great basketball players to come out of Oakland, and who just did not have the savvy or the social knowledge to succeed, because they didn't have that support system there. You know, Antonio Kellogg went off to Connecticut and got into some trouble there. They didn't support him, and he was done.
Right.
DeMarshe did not have support at Oakland Tech at the time, and you know, he had some trouble there and had to give up a scholarship to Louisville. You know, those are two cases of two young men that, if they had the support system that I think is more prevalent today, I think that they could have succeeded and they could have gotten that college degree and could have moved on, but they didn't. And so I do think it's getting better.
Sure.
I think there are still some problems, especially in Oakland with gentrification, where some people are being forced to move out as Oakland becomes better, which is really a touchy kind of problem. It's great that Oakland's getting better, but then the people that were there before don't get to see the advantages of that. So there are still problems out there now, but certainly the Oakland School District has improved immensely. I think Richmond as well has improved immensely. I knew Terrence Kelly, who's a De La Salle football player that was shot and killed the summer before he was supposed to go play football at the University of Oregon.
Yeah.
And at that time, the city of Richmond was not prepared to deal with that kind of thing. I think it's better now. Still not perfect, certainly, but it's better. So I do think, in answer to your question, I think we're moving in the right direction. I still think there are too many people that think that it's not a problem, that think that all lives matter and that we shouldn't have to concentrate on Black and brown lives who, in most cases, don't have equal opportunity still, as a lot of other people. Certainly my kids were very privileged and had every opportunity to succeed. So I think it's good that it's happening. I still think it's a problem that it is harder for the kids in Richmond and Oakland and East San Jose to succeed. And we definitely need to deal with that. So I'm glad it's getting out there. I battle with some of my old white guy buddies that are friends of mine that don't have the same opportunity that I have had to experience what some of these kids have gone through the stories that we've done and the teams that we've covered. But I do think it's getting better, but we still have a ways to go.
I appreciate you for just your perspective on it, and just understanding that there is a big difference, and the things that you've been doing and continue to do. I just can't thank you enough for the Black and brown community. And it's this time has also made me think, how can I help? Because I have been, even though I'm a Black man, I have been privileged in a lot of ways, from the people that I was brought up around and the family structure that I had. Everybody doesn't have that. And even on this campus, we have athletes that are Black and that come from the East Side or East Palo Alto or whatever. And I look at myself and saying, somebody that has created a successful path. No, it hasn't been easy, but how can I help some of these other young men and women do that same thing? And if they had guidance, and there's kids here that you look back on and you say, man, if I could have touched that kid, he played football. He didn't, he wasn't a basketball player or anything like that, but he wouldn't be in the situation he's in now if he just had somebody like me to talk to him. And I'm so focused on what I have to do. Nothing's really bothering my world, but what can I help with the outside people that I can get in touch with if I wanted to. And it sounds like that's something similar that what you've been doing on your 30-year journey.
Yeah, and we've made a point too, and with me and my employees and my family, we've picked some athletes along the way that we've helped out and supported, and behind the scenes without it being part of a show. And then also with our show, with our end of the season awards banquet that we do every year, we usually give out about $35,000 in scholarships there. It's not a huge amount, and I don't think a couple of $1,000s is going to pay for anybody's college education. But if more people did that, then the kids can add up that money and get through college and get some help in getting there. It's harder and harder. It's more expensive all the time. So we try to do that as well.
Definitely. We'll put that in the show notes for anybody that wants to reach out. You can go on Twitter and follow Cal High Sports or
Please.
49ers Cal High and make sure you just message on there. At any rate, talk about evolution. All the best athletes, are able to, or anybody are able to reinvent themselves. You had to reinvent yourself over and over in your 29-year career, behind the scenes and in front of the camera. So what are some of the things that you've done to evolve, especially now compared to where you said earlier you're on the VHS and now you're, obviously on the SD cards and the social media. I know you guys on Friday nights, you guys are blasting the Instagram pages with where you're at and some of the cool things. So talk about the evolution of, basically 3 decades.
It's been amazing, both technologically and career-wise. So when we started doing this, we were using electric typewriters and going tape to tape. We didn't have computers. We certainly didn't have internet. And so when I was in Missouri, when we were trying to get scores from games, we have landlines, and we would call the Dairy Queen nearest this high school stadium because we knew that people would go to the Dairy Queen after the game and they would know the score. So that's how we got the scores on our nightly sportscast. After that, I went to Laredo. It was much of the same, beta to beta. Laredo, Texas, my first job. And then at Channel 36, when we were doing the high school sports focus show, we finally had computers, thank God, but still doing tape to tape. And then career-wise, I left Channel 36. It was kind of very unceremoniously. It was not something that we agreed on. And, I ended up suing them for wrongful termination and winning a lawsuit 2 years and 4 months later. But in the meantime, I started this new show, was competing against my old show and that brand that you talked about that I did too good of a job setting up. So I had this new brand competing against my old brand. And then I had to do a show in a completely different way. So instead of doing it tape to tape, we're doing it all on computers, which I thought I knew what I was doing. And it turned out I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to learn that whole technology. We were on a Pentium 2 computer at that time, which had very little processing power. And I kept having problems with the video jittering and all that kind of stuff. So it was really hard. And to get that show on the air as quickly as I did was the most stressful thing I'd ever done in my life. I was working every hour of every day for months to get it on the air, and then went from there. So we were on a variety of different stations at the start. But 6 years later, which seemed like an eternity, the other show finally died out, and then we were the only show in town again, which was great. But it was me, this little high school sports guy, this show with my own little show, which started out from my house, that I was doing it from my office in my house, and going against Cox Broadcasting, this multi-billion-dollar corporation. So it was literally a David versus Goliath thing. And I was able to beat them out and succeed on my own and continue on and do well. So career-wise, that was tough. And then we finally got to SD cards. Thank God. Get rid of tape, which was a pain in the butt and was always breaking down, and it was just horrible. And start shooting on cameras with SD cards, editing all on computers, and getting it done in that sense. And then, with the internet and all of that, made everything so much easier. And then you have, Max Preps and other groups like that, Scorebook Live now, that where you can get your scores and your information, and makes it so much easier to do. But we could have never done it live on Friday night, and I'm too old to do it. My heart couldn't take that anymore.
Right.
So we're doing it on Sunday nights, which is a great family time to watch the show anyhow. So it works out really well there.
Right. It feels like we've lived 3 lifetimes of technology in the last 30 years. I mean, it's just
Crazy.
Amazing. The lengths and the light speed that we're at now compared to when you first started.
Yeah, and you've got to teach yourself all that stuff. You've got to learn it all. And I was not a businessman, and now I'm running my own business, so I had to learn the whole business side as well. So what I learned in college was great, but I don't know how much of that I'm using today.
Sure, you learn by doing a lot of the times, and you probably made so many mistakes along the way. But
absolutely,
the bottom line is you did it the correct way, and your vision never always remained the same, and the end goal was always the same. So you outlasted the other program because you just stayed consistent. And for so many people, if you just stay the course and stay consistent and not really worry about, external factors that are opposing you,
Yeah.
you're going to be okay if you can just weather that storm.
Yeah, everybody's going to go through some adversity, and I went through adversity a couple of times. And, you can sit there and pout and cry and wonder why me and all that stuff. And you can do that for a day or two. But at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, who am I? Do I have the character to get through this? Am I a hard worker? Am I willing to put in the effort that it takes to succeed? And if you can answer yes to all that, is go out there and bust your butt and get it done and stop your whining and do it.
I love it. I love it. That's a great mindset. Talk about mentorship for a quick second. You have, I had two guests on this show, Kevin Thom Cuenca and Kevin E. Martin. They were both young budding stars on your show and then went on to do their own thing. And you've done that for a number of in front of the camera talent as well as behind the scenes, because they were basically a one-man band. I guess that's what you call in the industry, where you film the content, you produce the content, and then you get in front of the camera and pour it out, right? So, and you also have interns that work there from high schools, and I just think that's such a great thing that you're doing. And you've been a mentor to so many people, and both of them had rave reviews. They wouldn't be where they're at without your guidance, and they're both doing really cool things now.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, because I'm not always the easiest boss to work for.
Sure. No boss is really.
I'm pretty demanding. I do think I treat people fairly, and but I am demanding. And both those guys are talented people and did a great job. So I'm so happy that they said nice things about me. And we do have people that have come through the show. Tony White from way back is in Seattle. Scott Smith is in Tampa, Florida. A variety of people that you're going to see in a lot of places. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll bring in interns, and if they show some skills, I'll bring them along. And even though they may not have the greatest video reel or any video reel coming in, and that was Scott Smith and Therese Vignal was also like that, where they came in and they didn't have a lot of skills, but they said, Robert, give me a chance, I can prove myself. And they came in and they really did. But I told them, you can come in as an intern and get no money. And then if you show some skills, maybe you can come on as a freelancer. Maybe then you could get a full-time job. And for most people, that's too many steps. It's too much work. It's too much uncertainty. They don't want to do that. But for some people like Therese and Scott, they came in and they did that. And Chiara Biagini right now, who's on my staff, she's another one. She went to University of Santa Clara, didn't have a reel together at all, but she's turned out to be one of the best employees I've ever had. She's fantastic. So she was able to come in and really assert herself and work hard. And now she's doing great stuff.
Yeah. And, people always ask, I have a bunch of, former either assistants or coaches that coach in my club program that are varsity coaches, the two Los Gatos coaches on the boys and girls side, Del Mar, Branham, Lee, you name it. I had something to do with very little. They were talented anyway. They were going to be successful no matter what, but they were, we were all together at one point. And I think it's, as a leader, if somebody wants to fly the coop and excel, it is your duty to try to help them as best as you can. It's going to end up coming back, to you anyway. And then you just got to do it again with another up and coming person that is talented and educated and is driven. And the people that want to stay, they stay. And the people that want to go. And I've always felt that way. Like you can't hold people back. And it seems like,
I totally agree, Chris. And one of my philosophies is always treat people nicely. Be nice to people. Never burn a bridge, certainly. And if you do that, it's going to come back to you at some point. I mean, you do it just out of general purpose, but it'll help you out in the long run. When the 49ers were considering buying a majority interest in this show 3 years ago, they had all the managers sitting down in a room and they said, hey, we're considering buying Robert's show. What do you guys think about that? And there were like 7 people in that room that said, hey, no question about it. Robert's done a great job. We've worked with him many times over the years. He's very professional. Do it. You won't be sorry. And that, that is something that you can't buy. You can't lobby that. That's something that you get over time. And that really worked out for me well there. And this experience with the 49ers has been fantastic. It's been, really something that's proven that I'm doing something right, because we were able to show that we're a successful show over a long period of time, and it was a good investment for the team. And, in the meantime, the last 3 years my office has been in Levi Stadium. We use their studio there, $400,000 studio, a little different from doing it out of my house. And my wife and I get to go, all expenses paid, to the Super Bowl last year. So
Wow.
it's been a really nice thing.
What a true blessing. I definitely want to get
Yeah.
into the specs of the business side of, running a TV show. But you've covered some really great athletes in your tenure. Are there any that stick out in your mind? I mean, there's so many, but some of the great athletes that you've really covered, who are they, and why do they stick out in your mind?
I'd say there are 3 or 4. Kerry Walsh really sticks out. She's probably the best overall athlete that I covered, boy or girl, in the Bay Area, because she could play basketball and volleyball, won state titles in both, won 3 state volleyball titles and 2 state basketball titles.
Crazy.
Got the 3rd state basketball title stolen from them because the officials were calling a bad game and fouled her out.
Was that Modern Day?
Against Modern Day, yeah.
So I just had Sue on, and I said, what are some of the games that hurt? And she said that one. She'll never, ever, ever forget that one.
No, they couldn't believe that Kerry Walsh could block a shot from behind.
Yeah.
But because of how tall she was, she could. So she was blocking shots from behind perfectly clean, and they were calling fouls on her. Sue took it a lot better than I did. She was very professional. I was very upset because that would have been her 3rd state title as a basketball player. But Kerry and Sue is just obviously one of the top coaches in the Bay Area, in the country for years and years. She's awesome. I had the honor of knowing Pat Tillman very well, and I would consider him a friend of mine. I'm not sure he would, but probably. He was very nice to me. I had a great interview with him after they won a CCS title when they beat Delta O'Neill and Milpitas. And I interviewed him on the field, and that interview's kind of gone around the circles and been on ESPN and a variety of documentaries and stuff. He was just a very kind, super intelligent, obviously patriotic young man who, like all of us, he had his faults and got in fights in high school and liked to jump off cliffs into the water and all that kind of stuff. So that was part of his personality and his mystique, but a great person, and a real tragedy. And that affected me deeply when that happened. Also enjoyed covering Marshawn Lynch when he was at Oakland Tech. And I have that interview you can find on YouTube with Marshawn saying after the game, he was standing there bare chested in his Under Armour, spandex pants. And he said, "Oh, my line, they were so great. Without my line, I would be nothing. And if I wasn't so broke, I'd take them all to Sizzler." And it was a funny quote, but also it really told the story of where Marshawn was at that time, being an Oakland kid, not having the advantages of other kids, and thinking that Sizzler was like the greatest place you could ever eat in the world, which was funny.
And that was at the Coliseum, right? That was at the Coliseum, right?
At the Coliseum, they won the Silver Bowl, and it was right after the game, and that was me interviewing him. You don't see or hear me, but
that was pre-dreadlocks for him.
That was me.
That was pre-dreadlocks for him, I believe.
Exactly. And he was very nice to me too. And then this guy back here, Aaron Gordon, another just really humble, great person who's been very kind to me. He came and spoke at our banquet one year and brought me that autographed jersey back there. Yeah. And anytime I've asked him for anything, he's been very helpful, and just a great guy. And I'm friendly with his brother and his sister and his parents, and wonderful people who have been kind to me. We did my day in the life of Aaron Gordon. You can see it on YouTube. It's got like 400,000 views over the years. Another thing where he took time out of his day to help us out. So that was really nice. So I really enjoy the people that are just really outstanding people that you can root for. I didn't know Damian Lillard well in high school. That was my fault, but he was kind of one of those guys that really improved as he went along. Right. But I really respect what he's done, and he's an outstanding individual and gives back to Oakland and gives back to the Portland area. My brother lives in Portland. And then Tyler Johnson, he's been very nice to me too. So the guys that are playing, People ask me, what's your favorite professional team? It's the guys that I cover. I love the A's right now because of Mark Hanna and Daryl Simeon and Steve Piscotty, all guys that I covered in high school. So it's fun to watch those guys as they move on and do so well, and all really good guys.
Awesome. I just love those stories, and I'm sure you got a bunch of them.
I do.
Let's talk about the business side of producing a TV show. What are some of the things that people don't know that really go into it? At the end of the day, there's finances and budgets and all of this stuff. What are some of the behind the scenes stuff that people really don't know?
Number one is it's hard. Anybody that owns a small business knows how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
There are all sorts of obstacles. Your profit margins are thin. You're constantly fighting. And I'm the hardest part of it is the sales, trying to get sponsors into the show. The sponsors are commercial sponsors. They get a commercial in the show. They get a feature in the show. The Service by Medallion Play of the Week. Well, Service by Medallion pays me to say Service by Medallion Play of the Week every week. The Rikus Center has been very loyal to me, Gary Rikus, for years and years and years, and has been a big supporter of our show and a lot of people. But it's hard. You're going out to people in a market that has every major league sports team. They've got major universities, all these people looking for a small piece of that sports dollar. And it's hard to get that. So we've got to convince them that this is something that's worth sponsoring. It's a family show, something you can sit down together and watch in a really positive way. And you're giving positive attention to teenagers. That's what we have to offer. So if you're looking to reach that family audience in the Bay Area, you can come to us and do it. But if people don't know the show, it's really tough to sell them. Advertising agencies are looking for big ratings numbers and all of that. And we can't do that. But what we can do is deliver families in a positive way. So if people know the show and are interested in the show already, they get it. And so you either get it or you don't, and you get it. You've been on the show. You understand what it means to people. But somebody that is an advertising agency in Los Angeles that's never seen the show,
Right.
Really hard to convince them to do it. So a lot of the sponsors are people that I meet at games whose kids have played high school sports that know the show. Joey Schott, who's a baseball player at St. Francis, his dad is at Cupertino Electric. That's why they're in the show. Sophia Harvey is a water polo player and a lacrosse player at Presentation. Her dad is at DevCon Construction. That's one of the main reasons they're in the show. And that happens a lot. And that's a good way to get people in. Sometimes coaches are usually broke, but sometimes they're involved with a company that can do that. So that's how we do that. And then, you do have to take care of the human resources stuff. I got to pay payroll every 2 weeks. I've got to pay, a variety of different people that are involved in keeping this show running. We've got to buy equipment and pay salaries. And the 49ers have helped. They've gotten some sponsors in. They got US Bank in as a presenting sponsor, which has been fantastic. It's the biggest sponsor in the show. So that helps. And they still own 51%, or they now own 51%. I still own 49%. So of those profits, I still get 49%, which is a nice thing. And now we're looking to expand and start shows in other markets, which is a risk. They're willing to take that risk. I'm a little bit less willing to take that risk, but willing. I think Sacramento is a market that we'd like to do a show in, so we could have that Northern California kind of network there together. So that might make sense. So that's what we're working on now.
And how will that work? Will you be a part of both? Will you still be, behind the scene or in front of the camera in the 49ers edition here, or would it be called somewhere? If you guys go to Texas, is it still going to be called 49ers, or how is that all going to work out?
So the advantage of Sacramento is it still can be 49ers because Sacramento is in the 49ers market. So we can call it 49ers Sac High Sports and go from there. I have a buddy of mine who worked with me when I first started this show, who's in Sacramento there. Hopefully we could convince him to be a part of that. And so that would work out well. We're looking at Houston as well. We could not call it 49ers in Houston. No. I've got a buddy of mine that modeled his show there. So we may latch on to that in that way. So it would be different in different areas, but in Sacramento, Aubrey and I would still, we would anchor that show. And cool. So there would be some synergies there to keep the costs down a little bit as well. Some of the things you got to think about.
And Aubrey's another one. She's a great young, talented, up and coming reporter and talent. I mean, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's really fantastic. And another, she's South Bay based, went to Mitty and Wilcox. She played softball in college. Kiara went to Mitty. She played softball in college. But Aubrey's fantastic. She came to me ready to go. She was at Syracuse University. They have a great program there. Second best program behind Missouri in the country. I keep telling her that. And but she was ready to go. She's fantastic and a really wonderful person and a great employee.
Northwestern might have something to say too about it, right?
No, they're nothing.
Oh, I know we got to wrap it up, but this is our dinner party of 5 segment. You've got 5 individuals that you can invite, dead or alive. Anybody that you would like to come to your dinner party that you would just love to have a conversation with, and just share a couple of hours of laughs and knowledge and all of that.
I say number 1 on my list would be Barack Obama.
Wow,
kind of an outside, well, he's a basketball player, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of outside the area person. Gosh, five people like that. There's so many out there. I'm not sure who I'm gonna leave out. I would invite Aaron Gordon to that. I would invite Ronnie Lott, who's a friend, to that. Can they be alive or not alive?
Dead or alive, yep.
Pat Tillman, I would definitely invite to that without question. And then probably my dad.
That'd be cool. That's awesome.
There's 5.
Hey man, you knocked it out of the park. I really appreciate your time. Much respect to everything that you've been doing and what you continue to do. And everybody go check. Where can everybody follow you or Cal High Sports or 49ers Cal High?
We're at Cal High Sports everywhere, including TikTok. I'm on TikTok now as well, kind of liking it.
Yeah.
And I'm Cal High Guy on TikTok. And our show will be back on the air September 20th. So be sure to tune us in. It's a little bit later than normal, but we're going to go all the way to June 27th this year with the extended schedule. We'll be really feature-based starting out. So a lot of really fun feature stories that I think you'll enjoy. And then we'll start hitting the games real hard again January 6th when they start playing.
Yep. Any final COVID updates that you've heard of in your circles and give the do you think there will be a season if there's no vaccine or, obviously this is probably a longer conversation.
January is probably 60-40 in favor of having a season there. And I hope that they will. I think testing is going to be more important than a vaccine.
Sure.
Hopefully we'll have a vaccine by January, but they need to if they had rapid testing right now, where if you got a test and got results in 15 minutes, that solves a ton of problems. You could test everybody before a game. And even fans in the stands. So that would be my number 1 thing. So I'm hopeful, and I really hope that there will be games in January, but we'll see.
Thank you, Robert.
Without getting too political.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.